Hey there, Brandon.
What's going on?
Uh, what are you still in the same house or did you buy a new mansion after
Uh,
last week? After BKFC,
n-
did they fund?
no, not quite. I didn't get my Argentina farm money, so it's going to have to wait a few more weeks. But when you guys do see me at my farm in Argentina, it's going to look very empty and probably have poor Wi-Fi.
Why Argentina?
No idea. Just picked a random country.
I feel like if you're rich, if you're gonna go buy a farm, you might choose I don't know, maybe Argentina's a fine country. I don't know anything. Do you know anything about Argentina?
Not a thing. I'm going to figure it out
Chile's nice.
because you've been. I got
Yeah,
you in
no, I
trouble.
mean no, Chile didn't get me in trouble. Did it get me in trouble?
I got you in trouble just by my big mouth, talking about something like completely ridiculous.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that. There was I don't even remember what it was. Something weird. Um,
I think you just were talking about the women, like how they looked, and then I brought it
yeah,
up in front of your wife, and she was like, "What the hell? Why are you talking
yeah,
about the women? It was
yeah.
innocent."
But it was something like she thought you said something else, and it was really like was just talking about like nothing even weird, but yeah, she's a wife. Um, but Chile's nice. If I had to live anywhere south of Phoenix, including Tucson, if Tucson is included in this, I'm choosing Santiago, Chile, way before I go to Tucson.
I would go anywhere in the world besides Tucson. I fought in Tucson. I've been to Tucson. People could try to convince you, "Oh, there's really nice parts." Yeah, I'm sure. But then the rest of the parts is the rest. So
Is exactly what we're dealing with. So you had a good week. BKFC made everybody billions. Pretty good in the UFC. I think I was like 7 out of 9. I think you're like 6 out of 8, something like that. Pretty good in the UFC. Um, really can't argue with that. I mean, you killed it on BKFC. And I was in Idaho, so I couldn't even bet on BKFC. So I had to have a buddy of mine download apps and get signed up and do stuff just so he could bet for me. And I won everything. So thank you, sir.
you're welcome. Well, you know what? You know what's so funny is like last week, on BKFC, I actually turned a profit. The BKFC before that, I got crushed. I got decimated. But what was funny is I was one pick away. I was closer to my farm in Argentina on the week that I got decimated than this week. This week, all my solid plays hit and my long shots were way off. Last time, all my long shots were just this close. One guy and I would be gone. I'd be disappeared on my farm. So it's just funny how that works. Like so close on everything, but you lose money. And then this one's so far away on everything, but you win a ton of money. I love it.
Yeah, it was a good week. It was a good week. I had a couple guys win as well. Hunter Azure won in Boise. He won his fight, and then
Let's
Christian
go.
Natividad won in LFA over in South Dakota. So that was good. All the bets won. Everything. It was a solid week
It's a good
overall.
week at the Fight Ready household.
It really was. Solid little go of things. So you guys go check out the Patreon, check out the Discord, and like and subscribe if you guys don't already. Honestly, at this point, it's weird if you don't like or subscribe. Then you're just being weird. You're being awkward, and nobody likes the awkward guy. So like, subscribe. Check out all of our stuff. Do it. And now,
What about our sponsor?
oh, I was going to get to that in a minute, just so it wasn't all shuffled into all of the other stuff. But since you brought it up, Betonline, they sponsor the podcast. We love them. Go check out Betonline.ag and use code SDMMA to get up to a 50% deposit bonus. So do that before you even listen to the rest of the podcast. So like, share, subscribe, go to the Patreon, go to Betonline. Man, if I had anything else to sell right now, I would sell it. Do you have any like cups
Do you have
or
a
anything
memoir?
you want to put on eBay? I do have a memoir. I have a memoir, and I'm selling a memoir, and it's in the show notes as well. But man, let me see what I have around my house. Here's a book. Let me see.
Can we
I'm
address
selling.
your outfit for a minute? Can we address this? This is the big
Oh, I
elephant in the
figured
room.
this would come up. I figured it would come up.
Yeah, you wore this
I
going, "Oh, I wonder why it's going to come up."
No, I figured it would.
You look like a
have
royal
taken a job
guard.
as a
You
bellhop.
look like you're protecting the queen.
Yeah, I'm a bellhop. I've been watching Royal Tenenbaums, and a lot of other Wes Anderson movies, and I thought, how could I outdo Wes Anderson himself? And I looked at my closet, and there was this shirt, and I thought, well, I've outdone him. I've outdone myself.
My favorite part of this week out of everything? My favorite part of this week out of everything was you jumping on the Discord and realizing that not only do we have a million emojis created of you and your face, but every outfit that you've ever worn on the podcast, we have found the shirt online and turned it into an emoji on the Discord. I'm sure this will join the rest.
I was like, man, at this point, I hope so. At this point, everything I have, I'm going to you guys are going to start posting stuff in the Discord that I've never actually worn on the podcast. And I'm going to start wondering, how did this happen?
Oh, well, man. I'm wearing my Scotch and Soda shirt.
I know.
I got to get my time out of this one. This was an $80 tee, and so I'm going to wear this in every picture, every podcast. You're going to see me wear this a few weeks. $80 for a T-shirt is crazy.
You want to know what's funny is half the time I wear Scotch and Soda T-shirts on here, and you never comment on how awesome they are. It's just like a blue T-shirt. And you're like, I wear this pink and red bellhop suit, and we can't stop talking about it. So next week we've got C-Rod. Next week we have C-Rod. Christian Rodriguez fighting in the UFC. And then Mark Madsen. But Mark's not fighting Drakkar Klose.
No, it's a tough fight. I saw it got announced today.
Did it get announced who he's fighting?
Yes, Grant Dawson.
Yes, they actually offered us. I'm not even going to say the name because I don't know. They get weird. They offered us an 85er. They offered us.
Nice.
They legitimately offered us a 185-pound fighter. Well, fought his last fight at 185. And we were like, are you aware, Mark's a 155-pound fighter? Are we aware of that or not? I don't even know how it came up, but it was interesting. I was like, oh, that's a great fight. I love it. And I was like, wait a minute. That's 2 weight classes above you. This doesn't make any sense. That guy sucks. Let's do it. Wait, no, let's not do it. Was
it Jordan Wright?
No, it was somebody else, but
okay.
He's fighting Grant Dawson. That got set up today. I guess Drakkar tore his ACL or something. So, I'm not sure the details on that and what.
Are we allowed to talk shit to Drakkar now? After all the shit he talks, it just doesn't even mean anything.
Nah, man. He can do him. Hopefully, he gets a speedy recovery. Hopefully, yeah,
that's actually sad. You don't want to see anybody hurt like that.
He's got a wife and kids, and hopefully all works out for them. We are moving on to Grant Dawson. That's it. But we've got a big fight. I think maybe I'm crazy. I remember UFC 100 being a really big card. I think that was like GSP and maybe Brock Lesnar or something like that. I remember in my head that was the biggest card ever. I feel like this is
it was the biggest card ever. That's funny that you say that because UFC 100 was the very first pay-per-view that I ever watched. And when I got into MMA, my guy was Mike Brown. I loved Mike Brown because he was beating Uriah Faber. That's the guy I always looked up to. And then watching UFC 100 was like, whoa. That was the moment I knew that I wanted to probably fight, was watching UFC 100 and watching Brock Lesnar and all the guys on that. And you're right. This card has a big feeling like that. Even UFC 200 didn't have, to me, this kind of feeling for this fight card.
This is probably my favorite fight card, man, in a long, long time. I cannot think of another card that I remember wanting to watch more than this one. So I'm excited for this. I mean, we've got top to bottom. I mean, Makhachev, Oliveira. What do you have? Aljo and TJ Dillashaw below that. You've got Benny Dariush fighting Gamrot. And then you've got Sean O'Malley fighting Peter Yan. And that is a fun one right there. And then on the freaking undercard, you've got Belal Muhammad fighting Sean Brady. That could be like a fight night main event right there. It goes down. The whole fight card is really fun. I like it. And then, we always talk about, main events and stuff like that are always hard to call and 5-round fights and whatever. So I think we'll get to those later, but I think those are a little bit more, tougher, the main card. But I like a lot of bets on the undercard as well. So I think it's going to be a fun fight to watch, and I think it's going to be a fun fight to bet. Speaking of bets, have you seen the email that the UFC has sent out?
Yeah, what does that mean for us?
I don't. It's weird. So for you guys that don't know, the UFC sent out an email and they said that fighters, coaches, handlers, managers, everybody involved cannot bet on UFC fights anymore. And I wonder, how is that even legal, or how can they enforce that? Yeah, because I mean, even the fighters themselves aren't employees; they're 1099s. They're contractors of the UFC. And like me, I'm nothing to the UFC. I'm just a person. So I don't know how they would enforce that, or how they could enforce that. Fighters, like what, you're not even, but they say anybody even involved or living with. And it's like, so you live with a fighter, fighters, like what if you met a baseball player when you were 7, can you no longer bet on baseball? Like, I mean, I don't even know how this goes. So I'm curious.
And it's silly. They still have to go out and perform. Somebody could have a torn ACL and you know about it. They still have to go out and actually. I mean, I guess that's a horrible example because then that would be a clear edge. Never mind. Okay, never mind. But they still have to go out and fight at the end of the day. You could know all the inside stuff in the world. It's still fighting. It's still that at the end of the day. I agree, probably not being able to touch your own fight. But then again, I'm like, why couldn't you bet on yourself? Like, I don't know.
It's been done forever. You can't bet against yourself, and that I get. But betting on yourself to win, you bet on yourself every time you step into the cage to win. Yeah. You don't go in there going, I'm going to lose. Like, who would walk into the cage? And not betting on
any UFC? Yeah, that's so silly. Like, it's so, I don't know. Whatever. I mean, honestly, it probably should have been done. You saw Calvin Ridley in the NFL. He got suspended for the year for betting on a game, which was ridiculous. But that's been a policy in every other league, every other sports profession in the world. It has been kind of the wild, wild west for MMA, but it does seem silly. Like, you can't bet on yourself. Football, yeah. There's a lot more at stake there. There's a lot more money. There's a whole team and systems and stuff like that. And your one play, won't stand out in a pile. Whereas when you're a fighter, it's just you on an island. But it just seems silly.
Yeah, bit. I just wish I knew where I wish I knew where it came from and why it came. Like, I'm just curious. I mean, I don't know if it'll be enforced, if it won't be enforced, but it just is an interesting thing to come about now. I mean, where it almost seems like gambling is bigger now than I think it's ever been. I mean, it's like sports betting is legal everywhere. I mean, growing up, you wouldn't like. I was in Idaho for Hunter's fight. We're sitting there watching ESPN, like Sports Center, and they have fantasy stuff going on. And then they just have all of these like bets, overs, unders, the spreads, and this and that. I don't ever remember
hurts my head.
But I don't ever remember as a kid anybody on like ESPN talking betting. Like, they would say like, "Hey, who do you think is going to win?" Analyzing it, but like the odds and the overs and the unders are just everywhere.
I cannot stand betting shows. It pisses me off. It's a waste of time. Go do something with your life. Betting shows are the worst. All right, let's get started.
Go. Man, UFC 280. First up, we've got Lina Lansberg and Karol Rosa. Man, this is the fight that is kicking it all off. And for being such an amazing card, okay.
I'm pretty excited about this one.
Are you? Well, you should be on a betting line, but let's hear your thoughts on this one.
Well, I'll keep this one really short. Last time, I think that was one of my most proud picks. I think one I've made of the year was Sarah McMahon over Karol Rosa. And I just kept saying, she got these big wide hips. It's hard to go down, but when she's down, she's down. It's going to be hard to get back up. But Lina Lansberg is not Sarah McMahon. She's not an Olympic silver medalist wrestler. She doesn't have great jiu-jitsu. She's a lot of clinch work and trying to throw elbows and kind of getting beat up. And now we can kind of revert back to the Karol Rosa that we know and love, the one who's got a very good jab, got high volume, very aggressive, pretty clean striker. Now that she doesn't have as big of a worry of the takedown threat. So I'm on Karol Rosa here. I don't know how you couldn't be. She's fighting 40-year-old Lina Lansberg. And we have talked, it doesn't matter as much, the age with the women, but Lina's got some miles on her. Karol, this is a setup spot for her. This is a spot for her to shine. It's not old Sarah McMahon. They're giving her two old ladies back to back. So Karol Rosa is for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny if you actually look at the physical transformation of Karol Rosa from the start of the UFC till now. She has trimmed down, lost weight. I wouldn't say lost weight, lost fat, and looked better, just leaner. She's got fast hands. She throws 2, 3, 4 punches, like you said, a good jab. She actually has a good takedown as well, like a double leg. Like she took down Jocelyn Edwards. I mean, she's not taking down Sarah McMahon.
That's a prize, yeah.
No, but like, I mean, it just with ease, like just when she does get the takedowns, she does it very well. She does it very deliberately. She knows what she's doing. She's solid. Lina Lansberg, I don't know how she's ever won a fight. It is literally push people to the fence, clinch, but then she doesn't even control the clinch. They turn her and she gets clinched on the fence. She hopes to find an elbow. Man, like you said, this is Karol Rosa's, like, man, this is one of those, I'm yelling bet the house on this one. Now, minus 265, minus 300, is where the lines are depending on what book you're looking at when, on filming. But, if you're going to go, I think you had one the other day. I forget who it was. Maybe it was Piera over 1.5. Make the odds a little bit better. If you could find something like that, hit it, slam it, throw Rosa in a parlay. I love Rosa here. I think it's the easiest bet on the card.
Well, just be careful. The only reason that I did that was because the odds were starting to fluctuate right pre-fight, like literally right before they were walking out, and the odds were going crazy. But they don't adjust the prop market, so they'll adjust the money line as it goes, but not the props. So that's why I added that, and I was pretty confident. Honestly, I'm not that confident. I think Karol Rosa can probably finish her, so I wouldn't get greedy with this one. I'm probably going to do this just to win $1,000 and then also parlay this.
Okay. I like it. Who do we have next?
All right. Next up, we got Muhammad Mokaev versus Malcolm Gordon.
Man, the only thing I hate about this fight is the odds. Bet online right now, Malcolm Gordon is, plus 800. Mokaev is minus 1,200. Even, I think I looked at these odds last night and I did a little write-up on it. I want to pull this up because the line shifted quite a bit just since then. So Mokaev, I didn't write it down, but I thought it was like plus 600 minus 1,000 or something, or minus 900. And in the odds, the lines have moved already. I mean, Gordon can't stop a takedown to save his life. Like the winds have blown over more than, just Gordon. Fast hands. I mean, you like him stand-in, but I think Mokaev looked actually really good standing. He has really fast hands. I think the only way in hell Mokaev loses this is if he just gets so comfortable with his hands and just falls in love and maybe hurts Gordon, and then Gordon just haymakers something, off the rip. I mean, we're getting a unicorn land here. I mean, shit like this. I'm stretching, but I think Mokaev gets the takedown. I think he probably gets a submission. I think it's probably going to be round 1 submission, maybe round 2 submission. I like Mokaev here. He's fast. He knows what he's doing. His wrestling is good. Good pressure. Hands look a lot improved since we saw him pre-UFC.
That's the big thing for me. Oh my God. People are so annoying. Last time we talked about Mokaev, they're in love with this guy cutting up clips and saying all this stuff about me. Okay, guys, just don't stop taking it so seriously. But you're right. Mokaev's hands looked infinitely better than his pre-UFC tape. He just looked way more comfortable. His cardio looked good. His hands looked good. Everything looked good, and I didn't realize how young he was. So it's very impressive, especially for his age. I still think he's got some holes that he needs to work on, but Malcolm Gordon is not the one. This fight should end up how the Bondar fight should have, but probably a little bit more brutal. So I think Mokaev inside the distance is probably a great play here.
Yeah, I think so. All right, next up we've got Armen Petrosyan and AJ Dobson. What do you got here?
Well, this one is actually the one that I think I like the underdog here. I like me some AJ Dobson here. And the reason that I like AJ, I think he looks weirdly green in his fights, but weirdly very seasoned at the same time. He's not making a ton of mistakes. He's got very fast hands, and he's one of those guys that is so freaking athletic that he throws punches and they hit you from angles that they're not supposed to because he's so athletic that it finds the target. The one thing that I think with Armen, I think this is a great stylistic matchup for AJ, right? AJ last fight, he went 3 hard rounds with Malkoun and he got Malkouned, right? He had a great first round, and then round 2, round 3 got Malkouned. And that's going to happen. I mean, Malkoun knows what he's good at. He's going to wear you down. He's going to put the pressure on, and that's what it is. This fight, where I don't think Armen's going to obviously be going for takedown, so it's purely stand-up. I think that AJ's got the clear wrestling advantage here. So if he does come out with a wrestle-heavy game plan, I think that's a great idea. He's fast. He's explosive. I think he can wrestle. And then he's got great hands. I think his hands are faster than Armen's. I think he's got more volume than Armen. So the way that I'm just seeing everything line up stylistically, I love me some AJ Dobson here. Now, I could look like a fool and he could come out and look super green, but man, I just don't think Armen fills enough space to win these rounds. So I'm going AJ Dobson here.
Man, I'm glad you said that. I thought I was going to be on an island by myself over here because I like AJ Dobson for the upset. He was a plus 180. Stylistically, I think this is a bad matchup for Armen. Armen's good. His striking is good. He's comfortable striking. He's definitely more of a kicker. But the thing on a stylistic level that he does is he kind of punches square with his hands, okay? And when people throw at him, he actually rolls his shoulders. He really reaches and he really extends his hands and rolls. And if you're just punching, that's not the end of the world, even though it's not technically sound, but AJ Dobson throws head kicks, and he throws same side head kicks. And I really would not be surprised to see Armen roll his head right into a head kick. I wouldn't be surprised to see AJ Dobson get the KO, TKO off of something like that. I also wouldn't be surprised if he ended up just out wrestling Armen, who does not seem like a phenomenal wrestler. Yeah. And Dobson can wrestle. He's athletic. He's dynamic. My only worry at all is cardio. I thought he looked much, much, much more calm in the Malkoun fight. But I actually think in that Malkoun fight, I think he got hurt. Like at one point, if you look in the second round, Malkoun got him down and he threw a big left hand at Dobson while he was on the ground. But Dobson's head was actually anchored on the ground and then he hit him. And I don't think he ever recovered from that. I don't know. Maybe it was cardio. Maybe it was the being blanketed by Malkoun. Maybe it was the punch. Maybe it was a combination of everything. I thought Dobson looked calm. I thought he looked really good. And he's not going to have that same kind of fight and crazy cardio anyway, because he's fighting Petrosyan, who's not going to wrestle him.
A grinder, yeah.
Yeah, we saw Petrosyan with Rodriguez. Man, Rodriguez was hurting. I mean, and Rodriguez is really good, don't get me wrong. But he hurt him a lot, but just Rodriguez is chinny. So every time he would hurt him, he'd get touched with a jab and wobble around, and he'd be able to recover. I like Dobson here. He's a dog. Man, throw some money on him early because, I think it's a good play.
Good. We're in agreement. All right. Next up, you should say these ones.
Oh man,
It's why people tune in.
I know it really is. Gadzhi, Omargadzhiev. That was good. And Abubakar. Oh, and Nurmagomedov. I can say that. Like I can say Nurmagomedov. I can't read it, but I could say it. So Abubakar, and Gadzhi. Man, so Gadzhi, for those of you, man, I don't really know what he's good at. I mean, his striking is kind of a karate style. He likes to throw his head kicks. His hands aren't bad, but they're definitely not clean. Like he throws like with some heat that looks like he kind of knows what he's doing when he throws, but it's not like, it's more Johnny Hendricks throws with heat versus, a Corey Sandhagen clean technical striking. He's throwing, and at that point, everybody throws hard when you're throwing heaters like that. I mean, it's not like schoolyard stuff, but it is definitely, decent. Seems kind of like he has a little bit of a karate background or something. I don't really know his technical background. He's not bad. He's not bad anywhere. But he's not great anywhere. And we saw him make the best decision in MMA history by being on top and sitting to a heel hook, which generally ends well. Who's the heavyweight champ again and why? You guys, if you ever see a fighter on top and pull a leg lock, don't bet him. And if you're a fighter and you ever pull a leg lock, you deserve to lose. So anyway, Gadzhi got lucky. He got the knee bar on that one, whatever. But on the other side, we've got Nurmagomedov, who's solid. He's a clean striker. He's, a solid striker. Not a world beater. Hits hard, technically sound. Wrestling is immensely better than Gadzhi's. And you really see him get hurt with the jiu-jitsu in certain areas. And I don't think outside of Gadzhi I think what we're going to see is I think Gadzhi is going to be really desperate in round one and do rolling heel hooks, jump for stuff, get taken down, roll for legs, dive for legs. Outside of some crazy round one heel hook, I think Nurmagomedov is a lock here. I think it's a kind of an easy fight. What do you think there? Think I'm nuts?
No, I'm on the same page as you because Gadzhi has been on my radar for a little while, even since the Caio fight. I remember that was lined almost as a pick'em, and I'm like, guys, I don't think this fight's going to be close. My dag sniffer is going off because I don't know of a Russian that wins by knee bar. Come on, I don't know of a Russian that wins by a knee bar. So one other interesting thing about this fight is Gadzhi's moving down to 170. I know there had been some talk in the last fight when he fought Caio that it was during Ramadan. So he was like, he was fasting. So his cardio was not where it needed to be. But I can't imagine a cut down to 170 is going to help with that whatsoever. And you got a guy in Abubakar who is good. Like he is legitimately good. I remember betting him very big against Jared Gooden, and everyone's like, no, he's fake. He's fake. I'm like, I think he's good. I think he's legit. And, people called me an idiot. He won pretty easily. And his striking looked so much better than I thought. His wrestling looked better than I thought. And his way to mix it all together looked better than I thought. I really think the theme for this card is Team Khabib, honestly. Team Khabib, I don't think you can go wrong. Not this week. So I like Nurmagomedov here.
Yeah, you mentioned the Gooden fight. I thought it's funny. I thought his striking looked really good against Gooden, and I was actually less than impressed with his wrestling against Gooden.
Yeah.
But
Gooden's like a fire hydrant.
Exactly. Yeah, he's a tank of a human.
He's like a Gleison Tebow. Yeah.
Yeah. But
who also gave Khabib problems.
You've got Nurmagomedov, has good power, has good wrestling, has good cardio. He's not great at anything, but that much good in a row is kind of great. It's not like he's good at something and he has some big holes. He's good at kind of everything. His big hole is jiu-jitsu, and I don't think that really plays here. So.
Well, I mean, you were talking about him going for leg locks and stuff. But that's kind of BS jiu-jitsu. I think we mean like triangles and arm bars and very tricky, real jiu-jitsu, not heel hooks and diving at legs and
fundamental jiu-jitsu. Exactly. All right. Next up, we've got Lucas Almeida against Zubaira Tukhugov. What you got?
So this is an interesting one because I see everybody in the world on Almeida, and I understand, but I also don't understand. I can't believe how much Zuba gets overlooked. People really have a bad idea of Zuba. They think he's horrible. They think he's getting hit all the time. He can't wrestle. And when I'm watching him, I'm thinking the complete opposite. I think that his distance is really good. I think when he throws, he's so good at closing the distance, running in and out of range. And I think he sees things very, very well. Now, his wrestling, when he actually does wrestle, I couldn't be more impressed with his wrestling. He is so fast and so efficient. And this is a tough fight for him. Honestly, Team Khabib got some tough fights this week. I think they all win their fights, but I think all the fights that they did get were tough fights. Almeida is very good. I mean, the guy throws a million punches a minute. He's always throwing combinations. He's got very solid Muay Thai. You know, I picked against him when he fought Zellhuber on Contender Series, and I was super happy with that pick. And then going back to watch the tape for the Trizano fight, I'm like, man, Almeida's pretty good. Like, Almeida fills the space. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Now, the one thing we really haven't seen is a lot of takedown defense or a guy that's going to take him down over and over and over again. So I think the big question here is what is Zuba's game plan? If Zuba wrestles him, this is an easy win for him. If he wants to strike, I still think he can win, but it just got infinitely tougher. Just a guy who's going to fill the space, going to fill the volume. So I like Zuba here. I think he's got too many skills, too much stuff to deal with. And honestly, that's all I like here. I like Zuba.
Yeah, Zuba, you mentioned it. His in and out movement is what he's probably best at. Well, no, he's best at wrestling, but he doesn't use the wrestling much. What he is best at, that he has shown a lot of in his fights, is his in and out movement. And he actually has a really good, so he's got a good right hand, good straight, good overhand, but he actually has a really good left hook, but he throws it. If you guys watch old Fyodor Emelianenko, he almost, what you would call casting your hand. He rolls it down. He rolls, thumbs down. And so his left hook isn't like what we think of a traditional left hook. It's almost rolls it downward, almost like an overhand. Exactly. If you guys see Brandon right now, it's almost like the way that you throw a right overhand, you throw a left overhand basically, but turn your hips a little bit more hook style. And what we saw Almeida get hit with quite a bit was the left hook. That is what hurt him in the first round with Trizano. We saw him get hit with against Zellhuber as well with that left hook. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that. And the reason, he kind of holds his hands a little bit low in the pocket, his right hand. But Zuba does such a good job of pulling people into counters. And he does it really well, but when he can't do that, and we saw that with Dawodu, he gets a little frustrated. He didn't really know what to do with Dawodu because Dawodu wasn't pulling on the feints, and he was just standing there looking at him. And so Zuba was standing there looking at him, and he didn't know how to fight somebody when he didn't, come slugging in and pull the trigger on him. That said, Almeida is going to pull the trigger on him. And you said it, I think, earlier. He's a classically trained Muay Thai fighter. He is very good. I like him. I like how he throws in the pocket. He doesn't take turns. He fires. And he has got some beautiful Muay Thai. I really like him. I think, like you said, does he mix? This could be an easy fight for Zuba. But I think all fights could be easy fights for Zuba. But he just doesn't wrestle as much as he should. But I think he doesn't wrestle as much as he should because his cardio is bad. He wins round 1 and 2, and then he takes round 3 off. He is not a good third round fighter. So I think he's got to manage his energy a little bit. I think the in and out range is going to be a big deal. I think Zuba wins it, but like you, I don't know if it's money line. I could see him finishing it. First of all, I think this is going to be a very, very competitive fight, you guys. So it's not like I'm leaning Zuba.
Do you really?
Not.
You think it's going to be competitive?
I don't even know if it's going to be competitive per se, but I think it could be like that Dawodu fight where not a lot happens and then Zuba lands a good punch or two, and then not a lot happens and Almeida's missing a lot and then he lands a punch or two, and then the last minute he kind of wrestles him. So I think it might be a clear Zuba win, but not like an absolute mauling, I should say. Like I think
you know what this fight reminds me of?
What's that?
There's another fight. I can't think of it right now, but I know we're going to talk about it in the future. But there's this Brazilian who's a very Muay Thai Brazilian that's like high pressure, that stalks you down, who's fighting a Russian that is a decent striker and can wrestle really, really well. And I can't think of the fight right now, but I think we're going to see it soon. But yeah, I think
nothing's coming to mind.
No, but I think the read is the same because these high pressure Muay Thai Brazilians are going to force the Russians to fight, and the Russians don't fight very well striking wise on their back foot like that. So what do? When they panic, they wrestle like they've always done, and they always will do. So I think the read is going to be exactly the same.
I'm interested to see that. I think with the later fight, we're going to see that a lot more. I think with the earlier fight, we're going to see that as the pressure builds and toward the end of the round. But I think Zuba's going to win. I don't know if it's going to be decision or a knockout or a rear naked choke or what, but I like Zuba here for money line. All right, next up, we've got Volkan Oezdemir and Nikita Krylov. Are you up on this? Am I up?
You are up on this one.
Let's do it. Oezdemir is kind of solid everywhere. Decent wrestling. And these two just had a recent opponent, Paul Craig. And you see how much smarter Oezdemir is than Krylov, who knew not to stay on the ground with Paul Craig and bailed and didn't get caught up in it. He's got a good overhand right. He throws good punches from kind of weird angles in the pocket when he fires. Like he's got a good read with stuff. Decent wrestling, good hips, good jiu-jitsu. On the other side of that, we've got Krylov, who's pretty fast and athletic. I think these guys are around the same age, but Krylov looks like he's 20 years younger than Oezdemir. But Krylov has decent... Krylov's striking reminds me of Aljamain Sterling, where it's not like amazingly classically trained and it looks awkward and it's weird and it's clunky, but it's somehow effective for him. He moves, he runs, he throws up kicks, teeps, nice right hands, runs out of the way. Movements are too big, but it works. It somehow frickin' works for him, as weird as it is. And decent wrestling, decent jiu-jitsu. He almost submitted Glover Teixeira in their fight a while ago. And if this fight was 3 years ago, I would say Oezdemir all the way. Oezdemir just looks slow to me. He looks slow. He looks clunky. He looks a little chinny. Against Paul Craig, as that fight went on, I was like, Paul Craig is going to win via knockout. He's like landing stuff on him and throwing, and Oezdemir is so clunky and moving. And I'm like, what are you doing? I had money on Oezdemir to not be an idiot. And he just looked bad. He looked like he was slowing down, like Father Time caught up to him. I think Ozdemir's best days are behind him. And I think Krylov is going to win just by being the younger, faster, more dynamic fighter who still has just a little bit more fight left in him.
I hate this because I feel like I have the bias because of that same reason, right? We just picked Oezdemir over Paul Craig, not really even that close. Like, oh, this is the easiest fight in the world. But every matchup is different, and I'm trying not to have the bias because I was just so heavy on Oezdemir for the last fight. And I've been so against Nikita Krylov. I picked against him with Gustafsson, which in hindsight was a horrible, horrible idea. But I think people have talked me into this one. I didn't do a lot of tape on this one, but I think you're right. Oezdemir looks slow. I was expecting him to light up Paul Craig. I was expecting him to just, the second he gets tired, take advantage of him and light him up. And he didn't. He really looked slow, kind of inactive, didn't do a lot. Now, I will give him benefit of the doubt. Paul Craig is a tough guy to fight, and it's a really interesting style to fight. But that being said, he just didn't look great in general. Nikita's big, it says they're the same height, so 6'3", but Nikita's big. Nikita has, like you said, solid fundamentals in a weird way. I do worry about his cardio just a tad bit, but I think he should be able to do enough here to get this win. So I'm going to go with Nikita Krylov.
Yeah, and actually right before, they both fought Paul Craig last, and right before that was Magomed Ankalaev. And Oezdemir just looked nervous and old and did not do much. And Nikita at least fought. He went in. He actually got a takedown on Ankalaev early. And he just looked so much more athletic. Whereas, I don't know. I like Oezdemir. I like Oezdemir of 3 years ago. He's smart. He knows what to do. He just got old.
All right. What do we got next? Makhmud Muradov versus Caio Borralho.
Oof. Give us your thoughts on this one. This is a fun fight.
Yeah, it really is. I really think Caio's very, very good. I really, really am impressed with Caio. So first of all, his takedowns, I was waiting because I was watching the Omargadzhiev fight, and I was like, man, Omargadzhiev keeps just taking himself down, right? He got swept the first time. The second time, he just threw a big bomb and missed with it and fell on his face and got backpacked. And I was like, all right, so are we ever going to see Caio's takedowns? His takedowns are very good. And it's not even some crazy thing that he's doing. He's just going head to the outside, and he's just redirecting the double leg. It's something that we practice all the time, where so many people try to shoot a double leg and they fight head on with the resistance. Caio just keeps running and redirects it. He goes the opposite way of where the pressure is. It's beautiful. And striking wise, I think he's got great distance. Now, a few times he runs in with his chin up and it's a little bit scary, but for the most part, he manages distance very, very well. His punches are fast as they come. Like, Caio's very, very impressive to me. Now, Muradov on the other side, right? I think he's a good boxer. He's got a lot to like about him, especially his stand-up game. But I think a guy like Caio is going to wear him down. We saw with GM3 just not dying, and GM3 looked awful in that fight. I mean, he was just getting lit up the whole fight. He was getting rocked with every punch and still found a way to come back and get the submission. I really like Caio here. I think he's having a really tough road to prove that he belongs and that he is the truth. And I think he's going to pass every test. I like Caio here.
Man, it's funny you say that because I watched a lot of tape on this, and I am so torn on this as a whole. Caio is so technical. He's so clean. He really doesn't make, I say he doesn't make mistakes, but I mean, we saw him pull a leg lock on who was his last fight? Was it Petrosyan? It was, right? Yeah, and he didn't get it, but he came back up and then he blast doubled him across the cage. But Petrosyan is no amazing wrestler or anything, like we said. And the other thing is Caio isn't submitting people like crazy. That if he was a submission monster, I'd feel much better about this fight, but he's not. He didn't submit Gadzhi. He didn't submit Petrosyan. He did take them down. He did backpack them, and I do like him. I like him. On the other side of this, sorry, I was going to pull up records right now. Muradov, he's 25-7, beat Andrew Sanchez, Trevor Smith, Alessio Di Chirico, Wendell Oliveira. I mean, Albert Uda, even before that. I mean, KO, TKO, KO, TKO. His striking is freaking clean. I really, really, really like his boxing. I really like his kickboxing. I love his angles. I love his movement. He fires with intent. I think in the Meerschaert fight, Meerschaert just did exactly what he needed to do. Is he made it a slugfest and, landed some big punches, got the takedown in round 2. I think Caio, if he wants to win this fight, he's got to really brawl Muradov. I think he has to go in there and fight him. And that's not really his style. And so I don't know if his technical style is going to be the way to beat it. Like I'm really torn on this fight. My initial thought is that Muradov is going to murder Caio. Just in my head, I'm like, dude, this dude is just going to murder him. And then I'm watching tape, and Caio is really good. I really like Caio. I really do. So logically, I'm kind of backing off it a little bit, going, I think Muradov wins. I think Caio is going to be too technical here, and he's going to lose a technical stand-up battle. He's not going to get the submission because I don't think he's going to push the cardio that needs to be pushed and the pace that needs to be pushed to beat Muradov. I like Muradov here. I like Muradov. And I didn't want to, just for the sake of in my head, I'm thinking, well, one of the Brazilians has to win on this card. And I think maybe this might be maybe this is the one. I don't know. But I like Muradov, man. I think he's just clean as shit and he's mean. And there's no rhyme or reason. It's one of those, I just look at it and I'm like, dude, this dude's a murderer. He's going to kill this guy. And, I could look like an idiot over here or not.
A genius.
I'm never going to look like a genius. There's no Mensa over here for me. But, man, I think Muradov is just freaking mean and solid as shit. what are the odds on that? Let's see. Muradov is plus 166, and Borralho is minus 191. So.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's a close fight. It's a closely line fight. It's a close fight. I would probably line this one closer to a pick'em than the Omargadzhiev Caio fight, right? That one was a lot easier than this one.
Yes.
Because Muradov's actually good at something, like really good at something.
Yeah.
Right.
I like Muradov. I like Caio. Honestly, it's closer to a pick'em. It really is a close fight. It could go either way. But honestly, I think, in betting terms, this is a Muradov KO, TKO inside the distance goes to a decision, no bet, because I don't think Caio can win inside the distance. We don't see it much. I mean, he can tire him out and get a submission. We saw it with Mearshart, but Mearshart is a submission killer. He's a submitter bust. So, he's just a different animal. It's like Oliveira. Charles Oliveira in a jiu-jitsu match is probably going to lose to a lot of people, but man, that dude is throwing submissions like crazy in MMA. They're just a little different. All right, next up, we have the people's main event. And by people, I mean me. I don't care about the rest of you. You mean nothing.
And me.
Man, Belal Muhammad and Sean Brady. So Sean, Johnny Mac, Brady. Man, I go first, even though, man, I should have planned this out better just so I could go first on this one. Go first, Sean Brady, Belal Muhammad. This is I only care about this fight. Everything else can go to hell. This is the fight I want to see.
Well, we only care about this fight because, as far as what we do, we've talked about this. I've been traveling a lot and training at different places and seeing different training regimens. Nobody in the world trains as much cage wrestling as we do. I mean, it just doesn't exist. And, the new facet to our cage wrestling game has been, watching some of the stuff that Sean Brady does. I remember getting ready for tape for the Michael Chiesa fight versus Sean Brady. I didn't know who Sean Brady really was before that. I never studied him. I never taped him. And I went, holy shit, is this guy good? Holy shit. He has the best jiu-jitsu in all of the UFC, bar none. And it's not like, traditional jiu-jitsu that you see. It's not like, back from Brazil and it's a sweep to the mount to the armbar. This guy's control. This guy, every little thing that he does is so picture perfect as far as jiu-jitsu. He's excellent. Now, Belal is a very interesting guy as well. I mean, I'm having some difficulties. Belal's an interesting guy, too, because he's kind of a grinder, right? He's not the best striker in the world, and then he just nonstop pace, nonstop grind. I love me some Sean Brady. So this is funny. I actually pulled up BetOnline as we were getting ready for the show, and the very first line that came up when you click MMA is Ismail Naridov, who's the Austrian Wonder Boy, who I think is one of the most phenomenal talents actually in the world. And Sean Brady beat him, took him down, destroyed it. Like, Sean Brady looked excellent against all these guys who look phenomenal. So now we're seeing a guy who's probably got less of a striking threat than a lot of the guys that Sean Brady's fought, and all grappling upside, which is right up Sean Brady's alley. I understand the competitive arguments for Belal here, but I just really think that Sean Brady is the man. I until we see otherwise, he's undefeated. He's 15-0. He's got some of the best wrestling and best jiu-jitsu, and didn't even wrestle in high school and didn't start jiu-jitsu until late. And he's that phenomenal. Man, I really like Sean Brady here. I think he's dangerous on the feet, more dangerous than Belal. And then I think his grappling is just out of this world.
Oh, yeah. You want to know what really impressed me with Belal the last fight was his lateral movement on the cage. He really made it hard for Vicente Luque to kind of find him. I don't think that's going to – I mean, that doesn't really matter here. It's neither here nor there. I was just impressed with it. I thought he looked good. Switching stances when he would move left, and switching stances, again, when he would go right. We fired those middle kicks, kind of getting Vicente to follow him, and then he would dart left hands in, and he would dart those middle kicks, and then get him to follow him again and shoot underneath him. And he shot in the open, which put Luque on his back in the open, which made it much harder for him to get up, which we're so used to these days in MMA is being taken down on the cage and then getting up on the cage. Whereas you get taken down in the open, it changes things. Stuff is different. You leave yourself open to different techniques. Belal's stand-up, I think it's improved a lot, but Sean Brady's left hook is solid. Sean Brady's boxing is solid. He has good, clean, crisp strikes down the middle. He's got a really good left low kick and a really good left middle kick. In the way that he takes people down, Belal Muhammad's single leg defense is off the chain. He's got balance. He angles well. He can defend a single leg all day long. Sean Brady shoots double legs. Doesn't matter. It's a wrap. So even if he does shoot a single, he's going to run it one step out, reshoot into a double. He hugs that double high right underneath the butt, and he is going to lift him and dump him just like he did Michael Chiesa with ease. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't like Brady here. I think he's a better striker. I don't think he's going to get worried. Now, the only issue is his cardio. He slows down a little bit, but I think he's stylistically, this is a good fight for him. And I think stylistically,
but did you hear the reason?
Easily going to get. No,
his nose was busted, and so he couldn't breathe through like one nostril in that last fight, in the Chiesa fight, which is why he slowed down so much because he's only getting half the oxygen. He never really showed that before. So. Yeah, he never showed that before. Yeah. He looked great before. Suffocating Ismail Naridov.
Slowed down.
Let me say this. Just, and you guys are probably going to call me crazy for this, just because, and we're going to see that on this card is like exciting fights paint this picture in people's head that fighters are better skills wise than they actually are because they have an exciting fight, right? To me, Vicente Luque is one of those guys where I think he is very good and he's very solid, but people think he's one of the greatest of all time because he puts on super exciting fights when skill for skill, I think there's guys that are better than him. So Belal beat Vicente Luque. That's a good stylistic matchup for him. He beat the ghost of Stephen Thompson. He beat Damian Maia, the ghost of Damian Maia, Diego Lima, Lyman Good, Takashi Sato. Okay. So that's his lineup, which it's okay. It's definitely good, right? But then you look at Sean Brady. Michael Chiesa to me is very tough. Jake Matthews, we just saw him slump our boy Fialho. Jake Matthews, very good. Ismail Naridov, Court McGee. Like, I'm looking at Sean Brady's lineup of guys, and I'm looking at Belal's, and Belal definitely has the names, the bigger names. But I think skill for skill, Sean Brady's almost beat the tougher guys to me, just looking at some of those.
See, I agree with you 100% skill for skill. But in terms of the record, I think Chiesa, I mean, that was the ghost of Michael Chiesa right there. That's the last time we're seeing him, I thought. And honestly, going back, I watched the Court McGee fight again for this. I think Sean might have lost that fight. I really do. I love Sean Brady, you guys, but go back and watch that fight. And I was intrigued with how the scoring was on that. So yes, hey, look, I love Brady like the rest of them, but I think his actual best name is Jake Matthews, and not even name, but just his best performance, the way that he handled that. And Jake Matthews is actually, he looked good there, but forget about records. That doesn't really matter here. These two guys, their records don't fight for them. They fight each other. And stylistically, I like Brady here. I think the guy to beat Brady is going to be a very dynamic striker who can stop a takedown. Guy to beat Brady is like a guy like Jalen Turner of 170. I know wrong weight classes, but somebody like that long, awkward, dynamic style that can just fire flying knees and stuff right up the middle and catch him before a fight really gets going. But I don't see that being below Mohammad. Next up, we've got Caitlin Chookagian and Manon Fiorot. So you get Belal Muhammad and Sean Brady, and I get Caitlin Chookagian. Man, well.
I'm jealous. I like Caitlin Chookagian better.
All right. So we've been big on Manon since she got in the UFC. I mean, she is a tank of a human. She's tough as shit. She's physically built. She's good. And then Chookagian has gotten a lot better, though, too. I mean, just over the last, I think few fights, I think we've seen just a much better Chookagian as a whole. Manon loves the side kick. She loves it. She loves it. She loves it. Side kicks. She's southpaw. Side kicks the lead leg. Side kicks the body. Side kicks the head. 2,000 side kicks later, she will lunge in with a 1-2 or even just a straight cross. Her side kicks are good. Her lateral movement is great. We've even seen her wrestling in a wrestling defense in her last fight. Who was it? Was it Jennifer Maia? Jennifer Maia hip tossed, took her down a little bit. At one point, she did get taken down, and she scrambled right back up and fought feverishly. Like she will fight to not be on her back with a sense of urgency, which I love. The other side of that, we've got Chookagian, who's tall and long and rangy, and who has been using her offensive wrestling lately to her advantage. And then, her jiu-jitsu is good. She's, again, tall, rangy, solid overall fighter. My issue with Chookagian is she never throws with power. Like, gosh, she does not manage her range well. She's the tallest woman on the planet. And you'd think that she was 5'3", the way that she fights. Just lunges in, throws these short punches. Like, people are always crashing into her. Got head tossed or, head and arm JV, head and arm tossed 4 times from Amanda Hebus. Manon should win this fight. I think Manon this is her fight. This is her fight. There's going to be 2 ways that Chookagian can win. And if she's listening, like, do this, and you could easily, I'm not even kidding. She could somewhat easily win this fight against Manon if she would just throw a left hook, because Manon jumps in, whether it's with a 1 or a 2, she always comes in with her chin so high. She's like, she wants to get punched, and she's just like lunging in with her face, and girls just don't hit her because they try to step in with a right hand because Manon's a southpaw. Other girls that she's fighting are orthodox. They try and hit her with a lead right, but Manon's foot is on the outside, and so she wins the battle of straights right there. If Chookagian did nothing but throw check hooks after she came in, she's going to land a lot. The other thing is Manon, when she gets blitzed, she's a southpaw, and she leans back to her left hip and left foot. She rocks backwards. And against a puncher, that's the furthest distance you're going to get from a punch in an opposite stance, is leaning to your back shoulder. Well, against a kicker, you lean to that backside and you're going to get head kicked. And we actually saw Chookagian do that. I think it was against Hebus. She actually switched stances so she could throw the same side head kick. If she is smart, she is going to throw she's just going to throw hand combinations and just finish. Honestly, just blitz Manon. When Manon kind of runs away, fire her right head kick, and that will land. Fire check hooks, that will land. The only issue, though, is Chookagian just has no freaking power whatsoever. She just doesn't sit on her punches. She just doesn't, put anything into it. And so I think just on a volume level, I think Manon just side kicks and touches her way to out-voluming Chookagian here. And I think it's a close fight. I could see it kind of going either way, but I think Manon is just a little bit smarter with the way that she fights. And I don't think Chookagian's really going to be able to take advantage of the wrestling, because I think Manon is very physical. I think she is going to defensively wrestle well and jump the hell out of there because she knows not to get engaged in too much of a jiu-jitsu match. And I think she just ends up winning volume.
Well, here's something interesting on BetOnline. Most takedowns landed. Menon Fiorot, the odds are minus 325 for her and plus 250 for Caitlin Chookagian. Just with the amount of side kicks thrown, I think that Caitlin could trip her down one time and win that bet fairly easily. Plus 250 on that. The point spread is pretty interesting. So if you're a big believer in Menon Fiorot, minus 3.5, she's plus 170 odds for that. Very interesting to me. I love me some Caitlin Chookagian. I love her boxing. I think she's got the most swag in the division, just the way that she moves and rolls. But you're right. She throws almost no power, and people are not afraid of her. She out volumes people, which Menon's, Mayra Buena Silva tried to do that to Menon, and she was like, whatever. I'll keep this pace for 3 rounds. Doesn't matter to me. Man, I really want to like Caitlin here, but I think I think it's Manon. She's just so aggressive. She really seems to have upped her fight IQ just from pre UFC, pre fighting times a million. Like you said, she bounces right back up. She's always moving. So to shoot a regular takedown on her is pretty tough because those hips are always active, sliding side to side on the cage. I think this is her coming out party. This is the passing of the torch. We're either going to have a new gatekeeper in this division or a future champion. So I like Manon here.
Yeah, and range. Even if Chookagian was good at range, Manon's jab is her right sidekick, so she's going to find her way in there no matter what. I think. Yeah, I think it's going to be a hard one, and maybe I'm overthinking this. You cannot. Past performance does not mean future anything. But with the amount of sidekicks Chookagian's going to get hit on her stomach, how is her body? We saw her get bellied up by Andrade a while ago. Does that have an effect on her one way or the other? Maybe not one, but after 38 sidekicks, does that start to wear on your cardio a little bit?
Yeah, I think it would. I mean, even a little front kick, a little flinging front kick hurts, takes your cardio.
Yep. So, all right, you guys, we are getting, is this main card territory? We're in the main card territory, guys.
Actually, that last one
was main card territory. That was. Ah, shit. You assholes, UFC. Any other fight on the card should have been on the main card over that.
Belal and Sean Brady.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got the real start of the main card. Benny Dariush, 21-4, against Mateusz Gamrot, 21-1. And again, you get Gamrot Benny. I had fun talking about Caitlin and Manon.
Well, I love me some Benny. So just on a personal note, I really like Benny. I think he's one of the best guys in the sport, like just as a human being. Now, as a fighter, I really loved old Benny Dariush. I loved old Benny Dariush, who knew what he was good at, which was takedowns. I'm going to show how excellent my jiu-jitsu is. I loved old Benny Dariush. New Benny Dariush loves to strike, and gets chinned often, squaring up his stance often. It just feels really dangerous. Every time he fights, you're like, man, I know how good he is, and he does well and does a lot of good, but you're like, one of these days he's going to have to pay the piper. And now he's going against a guy who shoots nonstop takedowns, can match that pace, match that wrestling that Benny has, and whose striking is halfway decent. Like Gamrot's not a joke anywhere. He got beat up a little bit by CDF, but I think his striking is solid enough. To me, this is an easy one. We're going to go with the guy who's younger, faster, more dynamic, probably a better wrestler. Really good scrambler, has shown good cardio over the guy who just had another surgery, has always been injured, has slowed down significantly, takes too many risks in fights, gets chinned here and there. Like, to me, this is old man versus new blood, and I'm going to go Gamrot here.
Man, I'm glad you said that as decisively as you did, because I was thinking Gamrot is going to maul him. Like, I mean,
yeah, kind of.
I like Gamrot here. I think this is his coming out party, man. Benny knocked out Drakkar, who has a lot of power, but fundamentally has a lot of issues in his striking. And then he knocked out Holtzman as well, who, again, is tough, has a lot of power, but has some fundamental issues in his striking. He beat old Tony Ferguson, but who hasn't at this? I think you beat Tony, right? I mean, I have, you have, everyone's had their turn at beating Tony at this point. And I love Tony, but it's that's not young, fresh Tony. Gamrot's wrestling. Holy shit. His chain wrestling, his fight with Sarukian, his cardio is off the chain. His wrestling is off the chain. But on a striking level, you don't think of him as this amazing striker, but he's got good kicks and he has good fundamentals. Like he legitimately has good fundamentals. I don't think he's going to make the mistakes that Drakkar did. I don't think he's going to make the mistakes that Holtzman did. The issues that he has in jiu-jitsu that he had against, who was Ferreira? Diego Ferreira, where he kind of didn't want to be on the mat with him. He'd take him down, and then Ferreira's throwing 2012 armbar, omoplata, wiggles, turns, cartwheels, this is and that's. Benny doesn't do that. Benny actually, you want to know, this is actually a detriment. And this is what some of you fighters out there need to learn, or just people betting. The right thing to do when you get taken down is to find the cage and get back up, okay? But against a wrestler, against these Dagestan wrestlers, and he's Polish, so I'm not doing that, but I think it's actually better to play some jiu-jitsu. And I think Ferreira did a really good job playing jiu-jitsu, and Gamrot bailed and was like, I don't want to get caught in this spider web, and would let him up. Benny doesn't do that. He's smarter, and he knows the way to win a fight is to scoot back, hip heist, turn, give up your back, fight the hands, and stand up. That's going to be his downfall. Is he's going to do that with Gamrot, and Gamrot's going to jump on his back and he's
suffocate him.
I don't know if he submits him. Yep, but he's going to suffocate him. And I think the way for him to handle Gamrot's wrestling is to attack jiu-jitsu, is to actually you're going to get taken down, Benny. That's a wrap. Now, do you try to get back up the traditional way where he's going to beat you? Or are you going to try and out-wrestle a wrestler? And that's a bad idea. You need to be honestly doing bad jiu-jitsu against Gamrot, because that's your best bet. When he shoots in, you need to be attacking a guillotine. If you don't get it, you need to try and sweep him with it. If you don't get it, you need to attack a heel hook, not to finish the heel hook, but to get on top. You need to throw armbar, triangle. Like, you've got to Paul Craig this, because you're not going to win by getting to the fence and getting back up. I love his toughness, but I think Benny's a little sloppy. You said it. He's a little chinny. And I think Gamrot is just, I don't know if he finishes him, but it wouldn't surprise me to see him get a rear naked choke as Benny tries to get up. And it also wouldn't surprise me to just see a 3-round kind of blanketing via wrestling.
Yeah, he's minus 190 Gamrot. Like, to me, that's an amazing spot with amazing odds on a fight that I just view as a little mismatch, not in the skills necessarily, but just in the age and the injuries and the body and everything like this. That's a pretty good odds on a fight like that. I like, give me some Gamrot.
I mean, it's Paul Craig, or not Paul Craig, I'm sorry, Nikita Krylov and Oezdemir. You take two people who are very similar or very equally skilled, and you have one who's old and slowing down and the other one who's still fast and dynamic. And, I hate to compare the skill sets, because I believe Benny and Gamrot are both infinitely better than both of those guys. Yes. But all things considered, the faster, younger guy is going to win 9 times out of 10.
That's why I always win.
All right, we've got, man, I don't always win. Today, I've been feeling pretty good lately. I got submitted 3 times today by Camuela.
Good, you deserved it. Hey, you know what?
3 times.
I've been getting submitted a lot lately, and it pissed me off. And I was like, guys, I thought I was getting so good because you had my back not that long ago, and I got out of you having my back, which was a first for me in my life ever. I mean, you submitted me right after that, but I got out of the back.
I was on one today. I was like, man, I'm doing awesome. And then I just was like tapping like Morse code over here. I was like, all right, well, that's passing to the garb. Well, that garb passed a long time ago, but all right, you guys, the first big fight of the night, which could be its own pay-per-view, is Peter Yan, Sean O'Malley. We've got Peter Yan. He's 29. He is 16-3. Really, he should be 17-2 because of that Aljo fight. Sean O'Malley is 15-1. How old is Sean O'Malley? 27. We have talked about Peter Yan a lot on the podcast. His wrestling is awesome. He has such great fight IQ. It was really sad to see him lose to Aljo the way that he lost, because, man, Aljo got on his back, body triangled, and hung on. I mean, that was it. That's how Aljo won that fight, was really doing that. But man, Yan is good. High guard, calculates, eventually implements, throws with power, and really he's fast as hell. I think one of the best things, I think his best weapon that's in this entire fight that he's going to have to use a lot is his middle kick. He will switch stances to be in the opposite stance as his opponent. So if O'Malley is orthodox, he will switch to southpaw. If O'Malley is southpaw, he will switch to orthodox. And when people fire punches at him, he just shells up and then whips a middle kick. I think that's going to be his best bet here against O'Malley, who is tall and long and rangy. On the other side, we have O'Malley, who, man, he looks like a clown. His hair is like clown color. But that kid is really talented. He is freaking good. What impresses me the most about O'Malley is his, I don't even want to call it range. He has these feints that he can draw people in with. And he doesn't feint in the traditional way. He'll feint with his feet. He'll like kind of roll his hands a little bit. He draws people in. He'll draw them in, then fire a 1-2, draw them in, fake the jab, fire the 2. He really has a lot of good reads there. Then he's gotten a lot smarter. We saw the Pedro Munoz fight. Pedro Munoz was like, hey, I'm going to calf kick this guy. I saw Chito Vera do it. And I think Sean O'Malley checked every single one of those freaking calf kicks like nothing. I mean, it was like he checked those well. They were prepared. They were ready for it. But I do think O'Malley had a little bit of trouble. I thought Munoz won round 1 just off of volume alone. And I think he expected Munoz to throw a lot more hands and that he would be able to counter the hands as he came in. And he didn't. He threw a lot more kicks. And even though a lot of them were checked, there was so little that went on in that first round that I think Munoz won it just by volume. Yan doesn't really kick as much, and he's not going to. He throws hands. And the one thing that worries me about Yan in this fight is it's a 3-round fight. If this was a 5-round fight, I love Yan here 1,000%. But he tends to take a lot of time off during his calculating phase, and he tends to eat a lot of punches in his high guard. And I don't know that he's going to be able to do that against O'Malley and win a decision. I think he's going to give too much clock up. I think Yan can win this fight. Yan needs to march forward right off the bat, get in his face and swing for the freaking fences, fire middle kicks and go. As much as I love Yan, I think O'Malley is, I think we might see like a Conor type of situation here, a Ronda Rousey type situation, or not, or the train is derailed and it's there. There's just something special about O'Malley right now. Everything in my head tells me to take Peter Yan, and I just think O'Malley is due for a special performance. Even if it's not an amazing performance, I think he's going to win this fight.
Well, I was going to agree with you big time about that, but then the champ Triple C asked me to be in his video, and man, he gave some great points, and now I'm on the other end. I'm on the other end of things. No, just kidding. I've actually thought a lot about this one. And you said good fight IQ with Peter Yan. I almost disagree with that. I think he's just so much better than everybody else that he can afford to have such bad fight IQ because he's just so good that he'll make up for it. Like, if you really talk about it, like, is giving up 1 round, starting with a 1-round handicap every fight, is that good fight IQ to you? Is, taunting and kneeing in the head and not getting out of back control, like, is all that good fight IQ? I mean, not really. Not really. He's just so talented that he can circumvent a lot of the fight IQ stuff. But I think he's got something to prove now, right? He's lost 2 out of the last 3 fights. He's ready to prove something, I hope. I think exactly what you're talking about. I think he marches him down. I think he's going to know that he's losing the round if Sean's trying to pick him apart from the outside. And I think that constant pressure is going to wear on Sean. And I think we're going to see something more reminiscent to the Corey Sandhagen fight than the Aljamain Sterling fights. I think it's going to be a lot less staring and a lot more action, honestly. Another guy that's going to get him to fight and it's going to pull it out of him. So after being back and forth a whole bunch, got to support Yan again. Hold on. I want to grab something because I need to sell this to one of you nerds.
Oh, what's he going to grab? I'm intrigued.
Well, I got these things and I don't want to talk about how much I paid for them. Oh, you can't even see it. It's like these.
Can't really see the glare.
Yeah. It's like.
Oh, Peter. Yeah. We can kind of see it now.
Yeah. These Peter Yan. It's, what is it? A 1 out of 10, a 10 out of 10, something like that. This one's graded, and it's like a Peter Yan signature. It's like a gold card. I paid with a comma a comma, like a big comma for these. It's embarrassing. These are cards. So if you guys want to buy them, hit me up. They are for sale, especially after he wins. They are for sale for sure, 100%.
Hey, so I got to disagree with you on the Corey Sandhagen thing. That's the fight that I watched back the most because Sandhagen's the tallest. He switches his stances the most and all of that stuff. Man, I thought Jan gave up 2 rounds in that fight by just standing there, and Sandhagen was just throwing and landing so much on Jan, while Jan was just covering up with that high guard and swinging back. And actually, what changed the tide of the whole fight was a spinning back fist.
Oh,
I thought Corey was kind of cleaning him up and just out voluming him, and Jan was just like eating the punches, swinging back and landing here and there, but really just eating the punches until that spinning back fist dropped Corey. And I think that was the change, the change. So if he doesn't land some big crazy thing that rocks O'Malley, I think O'Malley is just going to out-volume Jan. While Jan is calculated and waiting for the next move, I think O'Malley is going to be just flicking, touching, feinting, jabs, and voluming. While Jan and Jan, I think, is the better fighter. I think Jan could win. I think Jan just spends so much time waiting and trying to figure it out. It wouldn't be surprising if Jan is losing 14 minutes and 50 seconds of the fight and then knocks Sugar Sean out at the end of it. He's just calculating that long. That would not surprise me at all. I don't know. I mean, there's something special about Sean O'Malley right now. I think his striking really is that good. I honestly really think it's that good. I think I think there are some durability issues because of his frame. Anybody that tall and skinny is going to have durability issues. And I think for Jan to really exploit that, he needs to go to the body. He's got to go to the body. He's got to rip the body. He's got to kick the body. And I think if he can really damage that body, then he can start coming on. But I like Sugar Sean for the upset. And I love me some Peter Yan. You guys have listened to me, trying to have babies with that guy for a year now. But I think O'Malley is going to get the win.
All right. Well, then next up, we have Mr. Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw.
Go. Aljo, tell us.
Yeah, to me, this is probably one of the hardest ones on the card, only because I think these guys are a little bit similar in a lot of ways, right? A lot of times they do so much other kind of funky stuff, striking and standing, and then have to all the time resort to their grappling and their wrestling to win fights. Look down Aljamain Sterling's record. It is unbelievable the amount of guys that he's beat. And you see the version of him that fights Jan, and you're like, this guy's a middling bantamweight, when realistically he's beaten so many good guys. I mean, hold on, let's look at this. Honestly, the Pedro Munoz fight was super impressive to me. He beat Jimmy Rivera, who's got amazing hips, so good. Cody Stamen, Brett Johns, Borralho, Tonquinho. Like, he has beat so many good guys when they were still good. It's unbelievable to me. I think this fight stylistically is very close. Like, okay, who's the better wrestler? Who's the better striker? I'm not really sure. I have no edge. I have nothing to go on here except for Aljo's a little bit younger. And I like his jab. I like his kind of tenacity. I like his will to just find it. Man, TJ is good. TJ is talented, but I have nothing here. I have no evidence to suggest a winner in this one, at least for me. I just have to go on just good vibes, and I would pick Aljo here.
Okay, I always count Aljo out, and he always freaking wins. Even if it's by DQ, he somehow freaking wins. I thought Corey Sandhagen was going to beat him. I was wrong. I thought Yan was going to beat him twice. I was wrong. Man, I probably thought. Let's go through his record. Yan twice, Corey Sandhagen, Pedro Munoz, Jimmy Rivera, Cody. I probably
lost
every
all
single
those.
person. Yeah, I thought he was going to lose all of those fights. Man, it's just crazy. And I thought TJ was going to lose to Corey Sandhagen as well. And I thought he kind of did, except for Sandhagen going full asshat and throwing 500 spinning kicks. giving up his back. The only read that I can really get here, there's two of them. I think TJ's wrestling is very good. And I think his actual jiu-jitsu is better than Peter Yan's. I don't mean his submission grappling. I mean like rolling around in a gi, training people on your pure Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which leads me to believe he's going to do a better job of defending the back and getting out of a body triangle if they end up there. I also don't think he's as arrogant as Yan to think like, I'm just going to stop all of these shots and then get his back taken. So there's that. I guess there's three things. TJ's old, but his chin held up well against Sandhagen. All right, so that was good. But I don't think Aljo's the guy that's going to test his chin a lot. Like, that's just not his style, so I don't know that it matters. And then the third thing is cardio, and that goes to TJ 1,000%. His cardio, he gets better as the fight goes on. He does not get tired. Aljo fades. I think the stand-up, I think all of that is going to TJ. I think Aljo has to Peter Yan this. And can he do it? Yes. Is he huge? Yes. Is he awkward? Yes. I think he's got to try and backpack TJ and either get him out of there really early before the fight really goes on. Shooting, honestly, like Tyra. We talked about Tyra last fight. Just shooting, taking the back, jumping up. Just what he did to Corey Sandhagen. I don't know that is that you can bet on that happening at this high of a level. And I think if it goes 25 minutes, you've got to bet on TJ for stuffing the shots and doing the right thing and having the better cardio and more willing to engage and press and swing. And Aljo looking kind of bad, shooting desperately if he can't get the fight. So on a betting line, man, I don't think small money, you know, a Aljo round one sub or something like that, you know, something kind of like that's a wild card. If you're going just straight money line, I just think TJ is the overall better fighter, and not even the overall better fighter. I just think he will win based on just a more well-rounded skill set.
I think he's a better fighter. I really do think he's a better fighter. That's why this one was so tough for me. I'm like, okay, do we weigh the age and better fighter versus the younger guy who's maybe not as good, but they're kind of similar in some ways and not similar. Like, it was just, this was a tough
and just finds a way to win.
Aljo
just finds a way to win.
Yeah.
You know, it's that. It's almost like the Ortega thing that we always talk about is like, he just finds a freaking way to win. And you got to respect that, man. That is respectable. It is solid. He's a good guy. I like him. I like his team. I like his camp. Man, and I am not a big fan of TJ. We fought against TJ with Henry Cejudo. I game plan. The thing with that as well, and I game planned a lot of that, whole fight and all of that.
All 10 seconds of it?
All 10 seconds. And that is not how we saw the fight going. Is TJ does all of this fancy stuff, the Bang Ludwig stuff, switches stances, feints. He smokes they call it smoke in your hands up here. But all of that is just a ploy to get people to throw. And then he just has good fundamental boxing.
Yeah. The basics.
Good power. And he just fires. And that's really it. And all the other stuff is just nonsense to get them to react. But he really does hit hard and he has really good fundamentals. So, his skill set is good. He really seems like an asshole. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of his. I think he's going to win.
All right, I'm switching my pick. I think he's going to win too. I just needed to be talked through it a little bit.
All right. Man, we've got the main event. We have Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev. Go. Give it to us. Hey, but before you do, and before you guys get to listen, go to Betonline.ag. Use code SDMMA. Get a 50% sign-up bonus. And subscribe to the channel, you assholes. We're making money. We're giving you guys picks. We're doing cool stuff. I wear awesome shirts. Brandon wears stupid, lame shirts that nobody cares about. But I wear shirts that people make memes of. I'm a walking meme. So subscribe. And now, Brandon, the floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah, this one is this is super interesting to me. And I think I think the heroics of Charles' last few fights are impacting the line here, is changing the public perception. And so I want to say this, like, my last name is Olivas. His last name is Oliveira. He was pure jiu-jitsu guy when he first started. And so was I. I only trained jiu-jitsu till I was, 18 is when I started MMA. And so when I was a kid, I always wanted to be like Charles Oliveira. I'm seeing him throw calf slicers on Eric Spicely. I'm like, yo, I want that to be me. I think that's so cool. That's the style that I want. So, I told you guys UFC 100 is kind of what inspired me, but also watching Charles Oliveira is what inspired me to want to fight MMA and have a similar style to him. And that's why I became so submission oriented in my jiu-jitsu, my actual jiu-jitsu. All that to say, he was my favorite fighter for years and years. If you asked me at any point in time, and this was way before he was a champion, who's your favorite fighter? Say, oh, Charles Oliveira. He's fighting this weekend. I can't wait to watch him. Always my favorite fighter. That being said, all that to say that I think Islam Makhachev is going to destroy him. And the reason that I think he's going to destroy him, Charles Muay Thai is beautiful. It is so clean and it's so beautiful and technically perfect. The thing is, though, he's knocking out guys and hurting guys who are willing to fight him, who want to fight him. And not everybody has to fight him. And that's the thing, too. So Islam Makhachev is not a huge striker, right? He's not going to be like Michael Chandler, where he just bites down on his mouthpiece and throwing bombs and trying to just make this fight active. Or Justin Gaethje, who's doing the same thing. He's standing right there in the pocket and making it active, right? He's a southpaw. So that's going to change some things, right? Now the jab is not as effective. Now it's the two, and you got some different strikes that are going to be effective. He shoots head on the outside, double legs, which is beautiful. He's got great wrestling. It's super aggressive, and Charles is willing to play on his back. And you had mentioned this earlier. You think if Charles Oliveira entered a jiu-jitsu tournament, he probably doesn't win. Like, does he medal at ADCC? Probably not. Does he medal at a Boca Raton Open? He probably takes a silver. Maybe he'll take a gold just because he's such a good athlete and he's on all the juice now. But I just don't believe in his jiu-jitsu as much as people do. If you ask me what the difference is, I would take Dagestani wrestling, whatever Islam Makhachev is doing, where he's wrapping the legs and always controlling a wrist and driving his head into people and punching like crazy, over Hail Mary submissions when he doesn't even get them on most people. I think Charles, honestly, his only path to victory is standing. It is on the feet. It's chasing down Makhachev and trying to hurt him on the feet. But I think Makhachev's wrestling is just way too good. I think he's sound enough defensively to not get hurt and then to employ his wrestling at any time. So to me, I don't really think this fight is that close. I think Makhachev's honestly going to finish him probably second or third round just by tying him up, ground and pound, beating his ass. I like Makhachev pretty confidently here. And that's saying that Charles has been my favorite fighter for the majority of my life.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I love Oliveira. I think he's got, if you were to tell me how many ways does Oliveira have to win, I'd say 2,546. How many ways does Makhachev have to win? Like 3. I don't know what those 3 are. I mean, I do ground and pound, submission, decision. Oliveira, guillotine, calf slicer, knockout, knee, elbow. And I know this is a long time ago, you guys. It's a long time ago. I do not mean this to be derogatory toward this man because I love him as a commentator. Paul Felder ground and pounded him out in 2017 via the guard. He went on a tear after that. He beat Ferguson to an inch of his life. He knocked out Chandler, Gaethje, Poirier. That is a lineup. Gaethje, Poirier, Chandler, Ferguson. But those guys, first of all had him hurt. And then second, like you said, fought him tooth and nail and made it hard. I think Makhachev is just going to move. He's going to find a takedown, and he's going to beat Oliveira up. I don't think anything more than that needs to happen. I think he's going to do that for a round, then 2 rounds, then 3 rounds, then either wear him out, find a TKO or a submission in round 4 or 5, or win a decision. I want to say this is a close fight. And on paper, it should be a close fight. In terms of betting, I think it actually should be pretty close because Oliveira could legitimately finish this fight at any point. He has a ton of ways to win. But will he? I don't think so. I think Makhachev is going to kind of steamroll him. I think it's a Gamrot, Benny Dariush fight. I think Benny Dariush has 101 ways to win. Gamrot has one. And I think Gamrot's one way of winning is just going to be that much better. And I think it's going to be pretty dominant the way that he does win. I love Oliveira. I love his shiny white teeth. I love the Cinderella story of Oliveira. And, you know, I think his Rocky time is up. I think his Rocky time is up. And I think Makhachev is the Russian. And I think the Russian is going to go beat the Rocky story.
I think so too. I think this is going to be the fight that makes me a lot of money. I really am invested in this fight. I like this fight. I love jiu-jitsu. It's changed the course of my life, but honestly, it doesn't work. So we're about to see that.
Well, there you have it, you guys. UFC 280 from Abu Dhabi. I'm glad I'm not there. So when we went to Abu Dhabi for the during COVID, they chartered jets and flew us out. On the way there, I had like a whole 5 rows or 4 rows in the middle, which was awesome. On the way back, I had one of those first class pods, which was awesome. It was a direct 16-hour flight, which doesn't even exist. It only exists because it was chartered. Now they have to fly commercial and they have to fly coach. And it's like a 30-hour, 25-hour, total travel time with a fat, stinky person to your right, a little crying baby to your left, and not enough bullets to do the job. So I'm glad I'm not there, but good luck to everyone who is. Good luck to all the bettors. Remember, you guys, this fight card starts early because it's in Abu Dhabi. I think it starts at like 9 a.m. I think the main card is slated at 11 a.m. or something like that. So check your local listings, check pay-per-view times. I could be 100% wrong on the times, but I don't think it's going to be standard time. So another one in the books. Brandon, till we meet again.
All right. Next week. See you later. Thanks, guys.